Hey there, thinkers! Welcome back to Critical Hit. My name is Est, and here we go again. We just wrapped up The Acolyte, Episode 7, and wow! Disney Star Wars has truly outdone itself in the fifth department. I mean, that was hands down the most repulsive garbage they've ever released. To all the Star Wars fans out there who had to endure this train wreck, my deepest sympathies. Watching our beloved Jedi, who we've grown up loving and respecting, gets trampled on in the most self-absorbed, egotistical display that ever was. This is a new low, even for Disney. Since Disney's obviously not going to say sorry, they're too busy counting their money and ruining our childhoods. I'd figured I'd do the honors. So stay strong, fellow fans. We are all suffering together. Here's hoping the next episode doesn't make us want to gouge our eyes out. However, I have a few things to show off here, but before I do, we have a small request. If you're new here, consider hitting that subscribe button, smashing that like, and ring the bell to be notified for our next video. We would greatly appreciate this. This will help us appease the YouTube algorithm gods. So we thank you. Now, let me give you our thoughts on this rehash of the worst episode in the franchise. And I wish I was joking. Now, let's get into this. So I went into this episode already fuming because Rotten Tomatoes had the audacity to yank the audience score for The Acolyte after Disney threw a tantrum about review bombing by so-called toxic fans. I mean, really, instead of addressing the criticism, they just scrubbed the score clean. Sure, it's fixed now, but the fact that it happened, it all just screams typical Disney Star Wars. They'd rather play the victim and blame fans than own up to their own mistakes. The sheer ridiculousness of it all is just mind-boggling. Disney thinks that they can just ignore honest feedback from the audience by slapping the toxic label on every negative review. I'm sorry, but newsflash Disney, not everyone who dislikes your content is a hater. Maybe, just maybe, your show is actually as bad as people are saying. But no. Instead of taking a hard look at their failures, they keep churning out the same old trash, confident that if they just ignore the criticism long enough, it will just go away. Spoiler alert, it won't. The Acolyte is a prime example of a stubborn refusal to learn from mistakes. As long as they keep dismissing every piece of feedback as toxic, they will never improve. So here we are, stuck with yet again another subpar show because Disney just refuses to listen. I mean, Hollywood is at it again, trying to muzzle anyone with a differing opinion. I mean, it's not the whole industry, but you can bet that Disney Star Wars is leading the charge. It's like they've got some sort of personal vendetta against actual creativity. It's not only a dumb move, but it's also pretty risky if you ask me. But hey, let's not get too sidetracked here because this isn't a newsflash. This is a review of the absolute dumpster fire that is the latest Star Wars episode. Just wow, I did not think that they could outdo the disaster of episode 3. But look at that, here we are, stuck in this nightmare once more. The geniuses behind this travesty have managed to turn a beloved franchise into a never-ending fever dream of bad decisions and nonsensical plots. So buckle up for our weekly plot roast where we dissect and demolish the train wreck that is this episode. It's almost impressive how they keep finding new ways to disappoint. If you thought the previous episodes were bad, well, oh boy, get ready to be amazed on how much worse it can get. The writers must have had a field day throwing darts at a board of terrible ideas. And don't even get me started on the character development, or, lack thereof. It's like they actively tried to make everyone as unlikable and dull as possible. So here's to another round of eye-rolling, face-palming, and wondering how on earth anyone thought this was, well, a good idea. Welcome to the worst Star Wars episode ever released. Cheers to surviving another episode of the cinematic catastrophe. This is episode 7, where they decided to dust off episode 3 and give it a Jedi makeover. Yes, they've resurrected the universally hated episode of the Star Wars lore. Because, why break tradition with quality storytelling? We're dragged through the saga as the Jedi stumble upon Osha and May, leading to a full-on Jedi Council debate. Should they extend an invite to those two, or pretend they never even crossed paths? Now, this brings us to the first big problem with this episode. The way they make the Jedi so self-absorbed, the Jedi in this episode are constantly talking about what's good for the Jedi and how they can improve things only for the Jedi in particular. Now, since the dawn of Star Wars, the Jedi have been champions of peace and the architects of harmony across the galaxy. Literally, the paragons of goodness in this saga. But now enter Disney, the masterminds who seem to misled the script on heroism and instead decided to flip the narrative entirely. They've taken our beloved Jedi and standard bearers of virtue and twisted them into antagonists of their own story. Even a child could grasp when characters start prioritizing their own selfish desires. Like, they've morphed into the very villains we love to hate on screen. Now, cue the Acolyte. This isn't some nuanced exploration of moral ambiguity. It's a blatant declaration that the Jedi are now the ones consumed by their own lust for power and corrupted by their own ideals. No shades of gray here. Just a glaring announcement that says, hey, remember those noble Jedi? Yeah, forget all of that. They're now the epitome of self-serving greed. Bravo, Disney. Well done. This is yet another masterpiece of Disney's mishandling of Star Wars, because brace yourself for disappointment. They revisited that infamous fire scene from episode 3, but, however, this time through the eyes of our oh-so-gallant Jedi heroes. Our Jedi stumble gracelessly into Virgin Witch Castle, hoping to rescue the elusive Osha and May. And who do they encounter? None other than their mothers, delivering a bombshell of wisdom. Their noble intentions are the very undoing of the Jedi Order. Really? Like, it's the kind of ludicrous plot point that redefines the meaning of nonsense. Disney's profound revelation, apparently striving for goodness, honesty, and righteousness, is now the express lane to villainy. This is just turning morality on its head. In another jaw-dropping display of consistency, they double down in the very next scene as the witches unleash their fury on the Jedi. The mother morphs into this ominous evil cloud, prompting Master Soul to do what any sane person would do when under attack. He stabs her. Seems reasonable, right? Well, apparently we're wrong. Turns out stabbing the evil cloud isn't kosher in Disney's book. And just to add insult to injury, right after the stabbing, she casually drops the bombshell that she was totally fine with her daughter joining the Jedi all along. Oh, how convenient. So there you have it, Disney's shining moment where they paint the Jedi as the ultimate bad guys. And what exactly makes these once heroic guardians of peace and justice so villainous, you ask? Well, their noble intentions, of course. A sentiment that I'm sure resonates deeply with every diehard Star Wars fan out there. Now, this episode isn't just a slap in the face to Star Wars or its beloved fans, it's a full-blown ambush on storytelling itself. Disney, in its infinite wisdom, decided to take this cherished epic and declare, forget what made this universe iconic, let's cram our personal agendas into every scene. Leslie Henling could have crafted an original masterpiece from scratch. No harm done. But no, she chose to hijack an established galaxy, bend its rules, and rewrite its very essence to suit her whims. It's a giant middle finger to all the fans out there, because, you know, who cares about consistency when you can just bulldoze over a beloved franchise and with your own narrative? Like, bravo, Leslie, for boldly asserting your vision, which triumphs an entire galaxy far, far away. I mean, what's next? Jar Jar Binks becomes the new Sith Lord? I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. We need to talk about Soul's deal with Osha. It's uncomfortably close to being borderline pedophilic. Look, I get Leslie is big on representation, but this, not the best look. Jedi may scoop up Force-sensitive kids, but Soul's clingy, overprotective routine with Osha, it's off-putting to say the least. We shouldn't be normalizing this kind of dynamic. Sure, safety does matter, but Soul takes it to a whole new level. His obsessive need to protect Osha, talking about her like she's the center of his universe, it's not cute, it's just downright cringy. Now, somebody needs to remind Soul that boundaries do exist for a reason. It's a bit much, don't you think? Like, let's not brush off the whole creep factor here. This needs a serious side-eye. Now, fixing this disaster is like trying to polish a turd, but let's roll up our sleeves and dive into this mess. So, first things first, Let's keep our Jedi on the side of goodness and make them wrestle with these mind-controlling witches. They tease us with this idea, but instead of diving headfirst into this juicy drama, they just dip their toe and call it a day. I mean, come on, guys. Where is the commitment to creating some real tension and conflict here? It's like they're allergic to making things interesting. The Jedi's noble mission becomes all about rescuing these poor, brainwashed children. Because, nothing's more heroic than saving innocent children from the clutches of creepy witches who've turned them into puppets. It's a classic hero versus villain setup that's worked for, forever? But apparently the geniuses behind the Acolyte missed that memo. Yep, they decided to skip the whole villain-hero dynamic and serve up a bland, villainous sludge of an episode. No wonder this story is circling the drain faster than the Jedi fighter in a dogfight. It's a bona fide disaster. Like, my lord, this isn't difficult. Jedi, the good guys. Virgin witches, the bad guys. It's not that hard to comprehend, but compared to the dumpster fire that we're enduring, it's practically Shakespearean. Frankly, if it were up to me, this whole debacle wouldn't even grace our screens. But, alas, we're stuck with it. And can we please give Dean Charles Chapman a freaking spotlight? The guy's practically carrying the sinking ship single-handedly, with only 1 ounce of genuine talent amidst a sea of mediocrity. Here's my final thought on the Acolyte Episode 7. Now, do they even know that there's this little thing called a clear premise? Something to anchor the shipwreck of Sith and witchy drama? Like right now it's like watching a mashup of Game of Thrones and Sabrina the Teenage Witch, but with less coherence and more confusion. Are we meant to invest in Sith power struggles or delve into the mystical world of witches? Because honestly, it feels like the writers threw both into a blender without even bothering to blend. This episode didn't even move the needle. It dragged us back to square one, leaving us wonder if we wasted our time waiting for a plot that still seems lost in its own fog. I mean, slow clap for turning back the clock instead of moving forward. However, those are my thoughts on the Acolyte. Let me know your thoughts down in the comments below. And hey, before you go, subscribe to our channel, smash that like button, and ring the bell to be notified for our next video. As always, this is Est, and I'm signing off now. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Toodles!